Dude, it's
You
the
guys,
filthy
there we
Twitch
go.
streamer.
Yo, what's up, guys?
Hey Eric, how
Hey
you doing?
man, Dude,
Chilling, man. How you guys doing?
Good, good.
we are doing good.
So you're
Yeah, we
getting
are
ready
doing great.
for?
Thank you so
Yeah, go ahead, James.
thank you so much for doing this. I know it's kind of like short notice and last minute, but we appreciate you working with us and actually getting this happening.
Oh yeah, man. There's no problem at all, brother. I don't, no problem. I know we're trying to plan it for a little bit now, so been better now than ever, right?
Yeah,
For sure.
yeah. And you told me you're starting training camp tomorrow.
Not a camp. I have a new gym that I'm going to be joining on top of my own training.
Oh,
Uh,
really?
yeah, I'm going to be going over CMMA as to get my wrestling and grappling in, but I'm still going to be going to fight science.
All right, fight signs for the
Amazing.
striking. Well, actually, I was wondering, dude. So, I was trying to find what kind of got you into fighting. Do you have a combat sports background before you got into MMA?
I started wrestling when I was 13,
Yeah.
and that kind of just got me hooked on the competitives for like one-on-one type of stuff. And then I used to just get in a lot of street fights as a kid, man. Like I used to just always
Oh,
get into
damn.
street.
The best
I would
base.
just always get into street fights, like in high school at parties, and wrestling kind of like made me more confident in doing so because I wasn't the biggest confidence kid when I was younger. So when I started wrestling my eighth grade summer, going into high school, because I wanted to play football. My brother was the one that was a wrestler, and he was like, "Yo, just come with me for the summer. If you don't like it, you don't have to do it." I ended up falling in love with it, and so I wrestled all 4 years. Um,
Damn.
and Nothing crazy notable there because I was kind of always like partying and fucking around, but I wasn't naturally good at it, and I would just like I said get to a lot of street fights, and I was naturally good at that. So after high school, I didn't want to go to college, I didn't want to do anything, man, and just
Yeah.
ended up just kind of going full. When I hit 21, I just was like over partying and over hanging out with like crazy amount of friends, and just kind of committed myself to training, and we started going to sign myself up for amateurs. Didn't have a coach or a gym
Yeah.
or a school. My first three amateur fights went 3-0, and then I got picked up by Systems, which is my coach now, by Ian Harris.
Got that makes sense because I
Oh, that's
see like you
awesome.
left the counter with your wrestling in your fights. I was watching some of your combat sports fights and then the first two fights in the UFC. But your striking seems to have gotten pretty good. You landed some good shots against Terrence
Yeah.
McKinney. So how long did it take you to develop your striking once you started with a coach?
Striking has always just been like an ongoing thing. I used to be more of a ground and pounder, like a lot more. Um, and then I just kind of fell in love with the striking. I knew I had a tough chin, so
Yeah.
I wasn't
Oh,
afraid to
yeah.
take chances. I wouldn't take. I was always taking chances in fights and not really worried about how hard a guy hits. I was always just moving forward, mentally strong, so it helped a lot. And through taking those chances, man, I just developed a striking that was kind of awkward and unusual towards the opponents, and I just ended up like either finishing guys in the ground from after I would take them to the ground, or I would strike them out, and then I would hurt them. They drop, I'd get on top, finish them, and it was kind of just went from there, man. And now it's just actually developing more of a technique and being more consistent with my defense as much as I am with my offense.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk about your fighting style, but I have one question for you. Once you got into wrestling, did you still continue street fighting, or did
No,
that kind
no.
of get you out of there?
Oh no, no, no. I mean, in high school, I mean, I only wrestled through high school, and I was always getting into fights.
Okay.
As the years went on, as I got
But
older, I
like
was still getting into it.
you learned the wrestling to like help yourself out in the street fighting. I'm like, oh God, that'd be that'd be a scary
Yeah.
prospect.
Well, basically, man, like in high school, if you didn't know how to wrestle and you didn't train anything, because a lot of the kids where I went to didn't train. There was only a few that I knew actually trained in some sort of martial
Right.
art,
Yeah.
and they just knew that I could wrestle. So they kind of most of the guys just didn't really fuck with me, especially when I would take guys to the ground. I would just start punching their face in, and they didn't know what to
Yeah.
do.
Jeez.
All right, you guys
Okay,
are
so
going to
that's kind
practice.
of a common talking point in MMA circles. Like, which martial art is the best for self defense? So, would you argue wrestling?
Um, I would say yes. If it involves the street fight, you know what I'm saying. And in general, I would just say wrestling is overall and has the best advantage. I mean,
Yeah.
jiu-jitsu does too. Don't get me wrong,
Right.
but
Yeah.
I mean, if you have a high level grappler and a high level jiu-jitsu guy and a high level wrestler, I think that I think wrestling would win considerably in MMA.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean,
for
Yeah, I
sure.
mean in MMA
you can
that's
see
what
it
I
you
think
in a
that's
lot
for
of
sure.
proven.
a lot of fights have proven that.
Yeah.
The all-time best have proven that. So.
So growing up, were you a fan of MMA, or did you really only get into it once you started wrestling?
You know what, man? I was actually never big on it. I never really got into boxing either. I'm more into boxing now that I've been fighting for years than than I was in the past. I didn't get into like UFC. I started watching UFC when I was like maybe like 17. And then my
Okay.
buddies and I would always joke. They would always joke around, be like, "Dude, you should just start fighting like that, man. I bet you can make it to UFC, blah blah blah." And I was like, "Nah, you guys are just being fucking nice or whatever." And
And dude,
I ended
yeah.
up doing it,
And then there's
and
yeah.
yeah, so like I got into MMA in general after watching UFC. I saw a fight against Forrest Griffin and Stephen Bonner,
Oh
and
Nice.
yeah.
for the finale of that tough season, and I was watching that tough season as well. And I ended up just falling in love with that sport, man. I was like, man, I could fucking do that. I could just go in there and just beat these fucking guys up, and you know, so yeah, man, that's pretty much that's what really got me into MMA was through that tough season with Forrest Griffin and Stephen Bonner,
Yeah.
and yeah, I ended up loving it after that. And I would just like even the street fights I'd get into, I loved it. I loved the competitive side to it, and I was just like a fucking kind of like an angry kid. So I would just
Yeah.
I would start fights on purpose and just get in just for no reason during the weekends when I was
Yeah.
at parties, and now now I do what I do.
Right. Yeah, it's funny. It's like everyone is like, "Oh, I could beat up that guy," or when they see the flyweights fighting, they're like, "I could probably take him." But then you actually go out, and you do it.
It's totally different feeling.
Yeah.
Totally
Right.
different feeling. And we all can say something, but I mean, you know how the
Yeah.
game goes. You guys, can understand that aspect for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
No, but yeah,
Although
you can totally.
although the people who are saying I can go in there and fight those flyweights are just completely delusional. I mean, what the thing is, once you start training even a little bit, you just realize, oh my god, there is so many levels to this game, and I'm on the bottom rung of this ladder.
Yeah, no, that's true, man. You mean like Mighty Mouse could probably whoop my ass? Who knows, man? And he's a
Oh my
flyweight.
God,
That guy's a fucking just an absolute
dude. Yeah,
like
Yeah,
that
that
guy's
guy,
a
just goat,
badass.
that guy's so
man. He's such a
badass. Yeah.
badass, man. But it's exactly, man. Like you go to a bar, and when I go to bars and I like will watch guys fighting on Fight Nets or whatever, and then I just hear people that are drunk, just
Yeah.
talking their lips, and it just cracks me up. I always just kind of like people watch after the fight because it's hilarious, and then you see guys start sparring in the air, like shadow boxing.
Oh yeah,
That's always the best.
I think I've been guilty of that before. Like
Uh,
Cyril Gahn's knockout over Tai Tuivasa last week, and I'm like, oh, that
oh
right
my
hook.
god, dude, I was probably that was probably my favorite heavyweight fight of all time, man.
I mean, it was
Dude,
a
it's
stellar
That
really,
was an
really good, man.
awesome fight.
Yeah, I mean that
I was
guy's.
just like, that
I
was
don't see anyone
absolutely
beating
insane,
Gunn, man.
man.
If he can take care of the wrestling, I don't see anyone beating up that guy.
Yeah, I thought Tuivasa was gonna get it done, man, and he almost did.
Yeah,
Unfortunately,
Almost.
Gane, man, the guy's recovery time and mentality is so tough,
That's the thing. Like he
He's
has
so
all the
so
strong.
good.
skills, and then we found out he has the chin as well. So it's like, what? What do you do now? Yeah.
Yeah, Tuivasa could only do so much, and then those teeps were just really affecting
Yeah.
his body,
Yeah.
his way of
Oh
breathing,
right.
and they were really, really like digging into him. I've been dropped by a teep in training,
Oh
by one of my
really?
old
Oh,
training
gross.
partners.
Yeah.
And dude, I'll tell you those shits are no fun when they just land just right, And if you have a multiple add up in one night, man, I can only imagine like the pain you're gonna be in
Yeah,
after the fight.
geez. I mean, yeah. So you got into kind of fighting through street fighting, but I'm always curious when I see fighters, and the question that always comes to mind is like, what are they fighting for now? So for you, I think I've kind of heard about you talking about like you want to become the champion. I think one of your goals that you've mentioned is you want to become ranked, like that's like your short-term goal, or like ranked in the UFC. So could
Yeah.
you kind of just talk about like what your goal is every fight?
My goal every fight is not to be the same fighter. Uh,
Oh, yeah.
I definitely don't want to be going out there and doing the same thing over and over. I like showing up with new arsenal and trying new things while I'm in there that I've been working on in my camp. Um, one of my biggest falls was, for my Jim Miller fight was just when not keeping my hands up, man. So I made it a thing now to just
Yeah.
always keep my hands up. And I did it throughout my career. And don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, that was like my 20th fight. And it wasn't until that fight that I actually ever got dropped or knocked out. So, and that was me playing with my hands down my entire career. But, I just like to have fun in there. I like to freestyle a lot. But, like I said, my main goal for every fight is, just coming out different and a better fighter than I was before, and not repeating myself and doing the same thing over and over. Like, it's fun and all seeing guys win the fights, but I just like to be different, man. I like to show something, be entertaining towards the crowd.
Yeah, and I
Right.
mean, on that note, we were actually talking about how you look completely different going from the Jim Miller fight to the Terrence McKinney fight. I mean, your striking was way better. Obviously, it didn't go your way, but the left hand you landed was great. And
Here,
Terrence
one
is such a
second.
lethal striker too. I mean, it was such a difficult fight. But tell me about. So we're talking about the Jim Miller fight. It's your UFC debut, and then you get knocked out. What are your emotions after the fight? How are you feeling going into your
Um,
next UFC fight? How are you feeling about your career at that moment?
it was definitely a heartbreaker, man.
Yeah.
I felt really down. I thought it was my fight. I thought I was going to win it, and just to get crushed out, put out like that for the first time in my career was definitely an eye opener. I thought I just could withstand any punch and just keep walking forward, and to come
Yeah.
find out, that's one of those times where you start realizing you're like, all right, I got to be more careful now. I got to start watching what I'm doing, and I got to start changing up my things, start being more defensive. And it was something my coach always talked about. Is, you're gonna get caught one day, so you got to be careful. You got to be careful and just never listen. Just being kind of like arrogant
Yeah.
fighter, being young. But it definitely changed my output for a bit, for about a month. I wasn't myself. I felt like I wasn't good enough. I felt like I wasn't going to be able to come back from this. And I ended up having to take a mental coach to help me out, and it helped a lot, man. He definitely put my head straight and kind of rearranged those like loose like, screws that were in my head that I had that were making me doubt myself and my abilities. Because nothing changes, man. You get caught, and then the crumb of the greatest got caught, and it is what it is in this game, man. Not everybody can win them all. You know what I'm saying? You're not always going to win them all, but coming back from that Jim Miller fight was tough, tough. One of the toughest things I've went through for sure, and it's something that I'm glad that I was able to overcome and just move forward from. So going into the Terrence fight, I was completely fine. So it is what it is when it comes to knockouts, man. But it's definitely when your first time you ever get knocked out. Hopefully, that never happens to me again.
Yep.
It's definitely a hard one to swallow that same night, because then you go back and even when you step on that social media, you just see replays. You see,
Yeah.
you get messages from crazy people that know that
Oh
like
yeah.
are just weird, man. And
It's a brutal, and people have
really,
no understanding of what's going on. Really, they're not seeing that side of it.
yeah, well, and it's weird, when you think it won't affect you, and then it does, and you're just like, what the fuck, and then you just kind of start doubting everything. But I'm a lot better, and now I'm just a very very mentally more mentally tough and going into any fight now. So uh, yeah, that's pretty much how I felt and how I recovered a lot better. I had to get a mental coach. That was for sure the number one thing that I did.
So can I ask you a bit more about that? Because you've lost before. So what would you say is the fact that you were knocked out in that fight kind of the biggest difference?
Absolutely, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I've never been dazed or dropped, so
Wow.
that was definitely an eye opener, And I've had 19 prior fights prior to Jim Miller,
Yeah.
which is I would say it's a decent amount of fights, for a guy like me going into the UFC. Most guys go in there with not that many fights.
Yeah, and that's
I know
something
you
you
do have
see.
an impressive resume.
And the mental coach is something you see more and more fighters taking advantage of, which I mean makes sense. It's just a brutal, brutal game, and it's not a game. In other sports, I feel like there's more of a respect for the athletes. Like in tennis, my cousin's really into tennis, and when athletes lose in tennis, they're so polite to each other. And the audience is so sympathetic towards them. But in MMA, it's just they're savages, man, and the people who watch it are barbarians. Just have no, they don't really care.
Yeah.
Oh no,
I
for
mean,
sure. The people are the biggest critics for sure.
Yeah.
You know, that's
Yeah,
for damn sure. And there's so many of them, so you can't do anything. You
right.
know.
So it sounds
And
like he did
we
a
just
lot.
want to make sure.
Yeah, it sounds like he did a lot
Oh, I was
because
just
it's almost like, after the Jim Miller fight, I would even rate Terrence McKinney as a better fighter. I would rate him as much higher than Jim Miller currently at lightweight. So having to go from the Jim
I
Miller
mean, they're
loss
both
to
so good.
fighting Terrence McKinney, I mean, yeah, they're both really good, but
You
Yeah,
know,
it's a step up after a loss almost, which is not something you see
yeah, no, I
often.
agree. I agree 100%. You know, one guy's young and hungry, and he's good at what he does.
Yeah,
You know, Jim Miller was definitely more of a veteran. Obviously, the veteran in things with the most fights or whatever, and we knew that going into the fight. And you know, I had them both rocked. You know, at some point in the fight.
right,
You know,
exactly.
the thing with Terrence is, I just kind of like blanked out, man. It was weird.
Mm.
I went into grappling, and then I gave up my back, and then turned the wrong way. I did everything that I
yeah,
normally don't do. And you know, I don't think it was jitters or anything. It was just me not thinking straight, you know. Um, you know, I went in with a game plan, and I was sticking to that game plan up until that moment. And I think that going forward into my future fights, I'm gonna have a game plan, but it's just gonna be more of a freestyle. Like I'm
yeah,
naturally good at just freestyling fights. I like to have some idea of what to do, but when I just go in there and do what I do, man, I just have that's when I become the fighter I am. And I think that going back to my original way of fighting is just as far as, you know, freestyling and what I do and not following complete directions and sticking to one thing only is gonna make me a better fighter when I going back into my next fight. I don't expect any easy fights, man. It's the UFC.
right.
Yeah, exactly.
There is no easy fight. So, you know, and I've always been a yes man, you know, even when I fought for Combate, I've never turned down fights, man. I was always like, yeah,
Oh,
sure. I did month to month fights. I did 3 fights in one night for the tournament. Um,
They're still doing that
you
geez,
down
know, so
there.
to
old.
me, I've never said no to fights. So, you know, I don't shy away from anything, man.
Hell
I'm
yeah.
always just ready to fight. I'm always just ready to have fun in there, and I'm always ready to just do what I do, man.
Yeah, and that really shines through in your fighting style too, because we watch some of your Combate Global stuff, and you're always moving forward, and you're just kind of like throwing whatever like presents itself at your opponents.
Yeah, absolutely. I keep them guessing. I keep everybody. I try to keep. That's always the best fighters. You keep them
Yeah,
guessing. They don't know what the fuck you're doing, and it kind of throws off their rhythm because everybody always goes in there with the intention of doing something specific, you know. And I think that, like I said,
Right.
man, that's just like that's when I fight the best is when I do what the fuck I want to do. But you know, sticking to keeping my hands up and all that good stuff that's
Yeah.
gonna help me defensively.
yeah. The basics,
Yeah.
especially like the
So
defensive basics, are always good to rely on.
Um, so the thing that stood out with me about your fight against Terrence McKinney is I feel like you broke him down like almost perfectly. So are you the type of guy that watches a lot of tape and like you talked about game planning. Do you game plan a lot for your opponents?
Um, this fight, yeah, we game planned a lot. You know, we knew what we expected. I knew he was gonna shoot after I hit him with a good one. I just
Yep.
didn't
Yeah.
react quick enough. I didn't react quick enough because I didn't think he was gonna shoot that fast. He's a lot faster than I thought with that shot. Um, I knew I had him rocked though, and but yeah, man, I study a
Yeah.
ton of game plan, man. I'm like my coaches will study it, and then I watch my own at home, and then we get to the gym and we put it all together. And you know,
Yeah.
we know what we want to go in there. He's like, you know, we wanted to go for the low leg kick, so that's, you know, I started doing that. We wanted him to push forward because we wanted to take him down when we got the chance and got close enough. Unfortunately, I was just so stuck on striking with him because I just figured I knew I was a better striker in my opinion. He hit me with some shots, nothing that was like honestly like noticeable that was honestly hurting me. A lot of them were blocked through my hands,
Yeah,
you know,
Right.
because I
they're
had my
blunted
hands
for
up and it
sure.
was hitting my glove. And there was a few of them that would land about like 4 to 5 hits that were actually good ones, left me with a black eye after the fight. But like I said, man, nothing that was like I've definitely felt more power. I think Jim Miller even hit harder than he did. Uh,
Yeah.
so you know, and I've when I fought this Korean gangster guy for Combate, he even hit harder than he did as well. Um, you know, but he definitely was just super fast, very fast, and that's very fast and very accurate, I would say.
Yeah, yeah. I would say the speed is definitely Terrence's biggest advantage, and his ability because his hand speed is so fast, and he stays on the outside, and then he can close the distance with a really good shot. And so he can manage his range really well. But it's a tough style to beat for sure. Um, Speaking of kind of your ability to freestyle in the cage, it seemed like you were trying a lot of things against Jim Miller that were kind of unorthodox or a little bit like I couldn't tell what was going on. So not to make you relive this moment, but right before you got finished by Jim Miller, were you trying to attempt like an axe kick? Like what was going on there?
I actually went into my second round very like out of it. I was dazed from leaving the first
Yeah.
round still.
Oh yeah,
Well, I had a tough weight cut. So I lost 24 pounds in that 9 days, 10
God
days.
damn.
jeez.
Because it was a 10-day notice, but they called me at night. So it was
Yeah,
technically
the 10 day
it was a
notice.
it was a 9-day notice. Plus you got to take out that extra day because the weight cut is the day before. So it's more of an eight, pretty much 8.5. Um, so I was coming off an injury. I had a fractured toe, a hairline fracture. So they called me, I was coming off of that, and then I was not in shape at all, man. So that week, I pretty much was intaking less than 1,000 calories every day. Some days like 5 to 800. Um, and then that weight cut was probably one of the most miserable. I never got fully rejuvenated after my weight cut. I was still very depleted of water and very depleted from energy and food, I would say. Um, and so every time I like even his first punch that landed like flush on me actually dazed me right away. And I noticed that in the fight. So every time he was hitting me, it was just rocking my head, just rocking my head. And
Yeah.
I try to withstand it and just try to keep going forward, took him down, you know, and going into that second round, I don't really know what I was thinking when I threw that axe kick. It's not something I just throw like that. I
I was
do
gonna
throw
say I've
that
never
axe kick
seen
a
you hit
lot.
other. Oh yeah, do okay.
Um, I do throw that axe kick a lot during training, but it's not the way I throw it there. So I think
Yeah.
my head just went on autopilot, and then I just threw it. And you know, Jim Miller's the veteran. He is, you know, smart and just kind of knew that I was going to keep going forward and just went for that overhand left and popped it clean.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I was wondering about your opinion on corners like calling fights early because like clearly you had taken a lot of damage at the end of that first round against Miller. And is there ever a question in your corner like, should we call the fight to try to save our fighter a little bit more damage? Like, I wouldn't say that in your case it was at the point where it was an unwinnable fight for you, but we do see in other fights where a guy's taken an extreme amount of damage, he's down like 2, 3, 4 rounds, and then they just send him out into the fifth round again to like take even more damage. So I'm always
Um,
curious to
I,
see what fighters think about that.
I mean, your corners know you the best.
Right.
Your coach knows you the best. So I mean, it is their job to keep their fighters safe, man. And if he can't fight and he's not thinking straight, if he obviously does not know what's going on, you know, I wouldn't be against it. Like if I'm getting my fucking ass beaten there and I just keep standing up, and my coach is like, no, we're
Right.
gonna call this, you know. Also, my coach is very, you know, very. He's like, dude, if I have to pull you out, I'm gonna pull you out. 'Cause you're obviously like, if you're just going in there and just getting a beating and you're not giving anything back,
Yeah.
I mean, why would you not pull your fighter? I'm not against it. I wouldn't be mad at my coach if he did it. You know, I would just go back to the
Okay.
tape and be like, I would just go and look at the tape again and be like, all right, I can see why you did it. Because when you're in there, you don't realize how much damage you're actually really taking
Right. Exactly.
until you've taken too much.
And fighters are
And
never going to give up.
you know, but you don't really see too often where fighters in MMA get pulled from their coaches. It's usually boxing. Um,
Yeah.
and in boxing, it's way more understandable because it's consistent head beating, as not as much leg kicks. You know, there's no leg kicks, there's no submissions, there's no ground game. It's just pure hands. So it's body shots or head shots. So, um, but very rare you see a coach calling it on the MMA fight, in my opinion. Also,
Yeah, it is rare, but I think it should happen a bit more, to be honest. It's interesting. Um,
it depends on the fight. It
yeah,
really depends on the fight.
yeah,
Right.
But it's a lot
Exactly.
of there's a lot of variables to it. But
Yeah.
I think
But
that I wouldn't be against my coach pulling me from a fight if he saw that I was taking too much damage.
that's good.
I mean, but you're right in the fact that in MMA, there's always another option to go to, right? Because in
Yeah.
boxing, you're just stuck like throwing hands, but in MMA, like the world is opened up to you.
Yeah, you know, you can take them to the ground if you're hurt. Most guys do, you know, they're hurt and then they'll go straight for the shot, straight to the takedown. Um, because that's the only way you're not going to take more damage to the
Right.
area.
Yeah.
And at that point, it's just you better hope that your defense is good enough to keep you in the fight, because that's going to be your recovery time.
It's good to have in your back pocket. So, talk to me about
Yeah.
some of your long-term goals now. So, there's a lot of talk now. So, mainly reason to bring this up is there's a lot of talk nowadays about UFC pay. Fighter pay is a huge issue in the media. Like more and more fighters are complaining about it. It's just like every other week, basically, there's a new dispute with the UFC. And most recently, we've got one with Nate Diaz coming up. And other promotions, competition to the UFC is becoming stronger and stronger. And it's empowering fighters more and more. So we're seeing some big people leave the UFC, like Shane Burgos is the most recent one, who left the UFC for PFL because of fighter pay.
Cub Swanson.
Cub
Swanson just left. Thiago Santos just left, I think, as well.
Thiago Santos just left? Really? I didn't even know about that one.
Yeah.
Wow.
I saw it on Twitter today.
All right. Well, MMA. What do you think? Because there's some fighters who will stick with the UFC anyway because the belt and the glory of the UFC is more important to them. Others will leave because the fighter pay is more important to them. What do you think? Where do you fall on that spectrum? What do you prioritize for your career?
I think that if you want to get paid more, you just got to win and you got to market yourself. That's just the way the UFC works. So it's just like, if I want to get paid more, do I think I'm underpaid? Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I'm getting my ass. I'm getting my brain damaged, and I'm getting beat up while being in there. That's going to be long-term effects on my body. Can I make an outstanding amount of money? Fuck yeah. Look at some of these fighters. Look at what they're making just because they know how to market themselves. They know how to, and they're performing good in fights. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
There's chance for money in the UFC. It's just you got to make it happen as a fighter. It's really what it comes down to. Are you marketable and are you marketing yourself? And when you can market yourself and they see that, then they're going to start marketing you too, especially if you're an entertaining fighter, that's legitimately what it comes down to.
Did you try for other promotions besides the UFC once you switched over from Combate?
No, I did not. I got offered a Bellator fight on like a 5-day notice, and I was like, you guys can go fuck yourselves.
Yeah.
And it was like underpaid as fuck.
All right.
So I didn't take that. If it was more money, I would have been like, yeah, sure, fuck it. But I'm not gonna take a 5-day notice. I wouldn't be against going to a different organization. Get my name anywhere. You want to get your name everywhere. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's the way people are going to know you. The reason I have a following in parts of the world that I didn't know I had following is because of Combate. So, anywhere you go is really just free publicity. But UFC was my goal, and it still is my goal. Just to keep doing what I'm doing and keep fighting. And my goal right now, short term right now, is just get my first win, man.
Right.
So I'm going to be training my fucking ass off, and that's pretty much what I got to do. And I'll make it happen. And after that, as far as the long-term goal, just get to the ranks first, man. It's not going to be a short-term goal. Just going to make that my long-term goal right now, whether it's a year away or year and a half. I'm 30 years old, so I got plenty of fight in me.
Who would you want your next fight to be in order to get to start making your way to the rankings?
I'm not in a rush to get into the ranks. You see a lot of fighters getting kind of in a rush now. I thought, like a lot of notable fighters that are making a point, and it's a good thing, is, Sugar Sean was a big one where he fought a bunch of underrated guys first. But look how much he's getting paid now, man. He's finishing guys that obviously had a fucking outstanding way.
Fighting Piotr Jan in his next fight? That's crazy.
But it took a while for him to even get to that fight. You know what I'm saying? He fought a lot of people before that.
It sounds like he purposely delayed his rise up the ranks because he said, right now my contract isn't paying me what the risk is worth for fighting these guys like Piotr.
A guy like that.
Yeah, so I'm going to keep fighting these low level guys. And then once you start paying me more, I'll fight the higher guys. But it's, the risk has to be worth the reward. So it makes a lot of sense to me.
Even Patty, the baddie, says the same shit,
Yeah,
he's like,
exactly.
I'm just going to fight as many unranked guys before I get to the ring guys. And it's just,
what, though?
It's smart, man. It's essentially smart.
You versus Patty would actually be a sick fight, just stylistically.
I would love to, man. I was actually going to be my call out after Terrence, but you know, it is what it is. I'll make my way back there, though. I know I will, man. I know that I am one of the best. I know I am a better fighter than Terrence. You know, he had a better night that night, but eventually I'll see him again. I'll see Patty eventually.
Yeah,
Um,
all of you, all of the new 155ers are making a big splash, I would say.
Yeah, they are, man, and I think it's awesome for my division. But the division's always been so stacked, man. You got some
Yeah, it's so
literally the
sick.
Yeah.
best fighters going into 155. You know, you got Chandler, you got Poirier, you got all these fucking crazy names that are in there, which is exciting to see. And those are guys that eventually I want to fight. But I think that I do need to have more fights and more,
I think so too.
just more kind of like more practice in the UFC cage against these top level
Right.
guys to get me to be able to compete at a level where Poirier and all these guys are competing at because they are fucking high level fighters, man, and they're good everywhere. It doesn't matter where it goes. So you got to be ready for everything, and the only way to do that is to get more fights.
I mean, that's the thing. Like with Sean O'Malley, he's fighting at 135. I would say at 155 there are no easy fights. Like
Yeah,
that
no,
is the problem
absolutely
with
not.
getting into the UFC.
Yeah, man. I definitely signed up for the toughest division, no doubt.
Right.
I think that the 155 division is the toughest in the UFC out of any organization.
I mean, when Demir's Magulov is number 15, you know, it's going to be a rough
Yeah.
ride at the top. Yeah.
Yeah, that's for damn sure, man. But you know, man, I know I can get there, and I know I will make it there.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, I still got 2 more fights in my contract, so I got to make some fucking shine, and I got to make something happen and get a fucking outstanding finish, whether it's fucking knocking him out or just ground and pound the shit out of him with elbows, either way. But I just got to make a name for myself in there, and
Yeah.
just getting that first one is going to be the first step to it.
Well, yeah, and I know you said you want to take it slow, but I didn't actually give you a chance to name someone if you wanted to. I don't know if it matters to you at this
Well,
point or
Poirier
not.
is actually always one of been one of my my dream fights that I've
Yeah.
always wanted to have. Poirier, just because he'll bang with you, man. You know, he'll bang with you, he'll stand with you, and you know that's always fun. It always makes exciting fights.
Hell
You know, even Chandler, but Poirier was definitely one of my dream fights that I always wanted to have happen.
I mean, to be honest, watching your Combate Global highlights, I'd really love to see you versus the champ Oliveira. I guess he's not technically the champ,
Mm.
but he's the
He's a
champ.
champ.
Just because it'd be like a blur of elbows and knees, like hitting takedowns and stuff.
Yeah, you know, I think that you know, even though the way my fight went, my last fight, I think a lot of guys are gonna underestimate my grappling. I actually do have a high level of grappling, and it's gonna be interesting to see what these guys do because I know I have a feeling that the guys are just gonna just take him down, take his back.
Yeah.
You know,
I
I mean
mean,
that's what I would say. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
lie. You know, criticizing myself from an outside perspective, I wouldn't say the same shit.
I mean, I feel like you had two of the hardest fights that like because you have guys like Michael Chandler coming into the UFC, but they already have an entire career under their belt. And
Mhm.
for an up and comer, I feel like you have two of the hardest like first and second UFC fights. You have Jim
Oh,
Miller,
yeah.
who literally has the record for most wins in the UFC, and then Terrence McKinney, who just like his highlight reel is insane. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
And so like coming forward, I think you're right. A lot of guys are going to be underestimating you.
Yeah, you know, and it's actually it's gonna be more interesting to see what they have me matched up for next. I mean, they wouldn't give me that fight against Terrence if they didn't, you know, if they didn't think that it would be a good matchup.
Yeah.
Stylistically, that was a good matchup. So, uh, but you know, there are a lot of fighters that my coaches and I and my coach, my manager and I have talked about. You know, we thrown some names for the UFC, and they're all guys that are either coming off 2 losses or lost, just like myself. So it's not
Yeah.
going to be like
Yeah.
a disadvantage or anything like that. You know, it's a fight to fight regardless. So we'll see. We'll be interesting to see what they throw at us. You know, you can't pick and choose in the UFC, but you know, they did. My manager just say, "Hey, get a list of names of guys you think you would want to fight," and I'm like, "All right." So I sat down with my coach. We looked at a bunch of names, threw about 5 or 6 names. All like I said, all guys coming off losses, just like myself. So and with decent records. So we'll see what they do, man. I'm actually very interested to see what you know. I want to get back in there either by the 7th of November. I don't want to waste any time.
Nice.
I only got to
Yeah,
fight
because
once. I only fought once this year, man. I'm trying to fight at least 3 to 4 times a
right.
year. while I can. So I mean, like I said, man, you never know with the UFC, man. They could just cut me out of nowhere. Who knows, you know? I don't think they will though, just because I am taking these tough fights. I've never been a no guy, so
Right. And they're usually pretty good at like rewarding people for taking these tougher fights for them.
especially short
But
notice.
yeah, you're right. Like at the end of the day, they're a corporation. And as much as they might say, oh, we're all a family here, like they're just going to do what's best for their bottom line.
whatever sells them views. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right.
I got a pretty decent following myself. You know, as far as like people that commit to watching for me. I'm from Torrance, South Bay area. A lot of people out of this area, and I'm one of the two fighters that's a UFC fighter coming out of this area. You know, they got UFC fighters that move here that are big names, but uh, you know, I think they want people that are going to sell fights. So if you could sell and you can make views happen when your fight comes around, then they're going to want you around. They're going to want to keep you around.
And yeah, you haven't been in a boring fight yet, yet in the UFC. In fact, like both of your fights were extremely entertaining so far.
Appreciate that, man. Thank you.
I do have a question for you. So, like, it kind of what you said, where your goal is to get like a very amazing finish or just like ground and pound people, and it kind of reminded me of Colby Covington, where he has a boring style, and the UFC was going to cut him, so he like just started trash talking a bunch. So, is that kind of weighing on your mind a lot when you're performing in the UFC to be as entertaining as possible? Or is it just like I need to get this win?
Um, I've always been more on the entertainment side before fighting. Um,
Right.
so to me, it's just like if I can be entertaining as fuck in there, I'm gonna do it.
Mm.
Uh, you know, the UFC loves it, people love it. As much as, you know, fighters are don't like being, I mean, I don't know, fighters, you know, whoever it is. I mean, I think every fighter wants to be entertaining in there. That's why we do what we do. It's entertainment at the end of the day. Um,
Right.
but you know, I've always just been just one about having fun in there, and I think when I have fun in there, I'm just more entertaining.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Um, do you have any more questions?
No, I was gonna say, all right, we're 30 minutes in. We've taken up enough of your time, so I thought it was got
Before
my
we let
questions
you
in.
go
Yeah.
though,
Mhm.
before we let you go though, I do want to get your opinion on a couple of big matchups that are happening in your division.
Yeah.
So the one that I think we're both like extremely excited for is Islam versus Charles Oliveira.
Dude, I got Charles Oliveira winning that one, man. I think he's
Really?
being underestimated a lot. I think his jiu is just gonna be. It's more higher level than you know than that than majority of the division that he's competed with, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's true.
Um, so I think that it's going to create some problems. Striking wise, he is longer, and I would say that Islam isn't the best striker at all. You know, so I think that Oliveira will create some problems because he's got that distance gauging. He's got that some really good check, counters to punches. So it's going to be interesting how that lays out. But I do have Oliveira winning that fight.
Yeah, that one we're like so
I'm
excited
assuming
for.
you
I
guys
got
got
Islam.
Islam. Nah, no, it's okay, man. I can.
No,
We're
man.
both
That's
Habib heads.
The thing is, I'm so excited for that fight because I think it is basically like the peak, the absolute peak of the sport right now. I can't think of like just two better fighters in the same weight class at the same time. It's honestly just it's a treat. It's just I'm lucky to be like alive at this time right now. So,
Oh, dude,
I mean, I got Islam, but
I
I
couldn't
think it's
agree
gonna
more.
win. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I couldn't agree more, man. It is a crazy year of fights that's been happening already, matchups, but this one is for
Right.
sure gonna top off the year.
Yeah.
It's gonna be hard to
Yeah.
top that one, even with the Poirier and Chandler. I think this fight's gonna be more entertaining.
Yeah, and that was the other one I was going to ask you about. I'm assuming you have Poirier.
Yeah, I'm a big Poirier fan.
Yeah.
Chandler's a beast though, man.
Jesus
And he's
Christ.
had it's like you guys said earlier, man. He's coming into the division from and started had nothing but bangers.
Yeah.
I think Poirier's is just gonna be more durable, and I think if he hits Chandler with a good one, Chandler's gonna fold, and Poirier knows how to stamp it. So I'm gonna know who do you guys got for that one?
I got Poirier too.
Yeah. I think you actually broke it down pretty well. Chandler like is great, but he has been a little bit chinny.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even in Bellator, I think it was the same way.
Yep.
I
He
think he
was.
held on
Right.
to the belt. I think one time, I think he held on to the belt and then he lost it. If I'm not mistaken, I'm not too familiar with his background in Bellator, but I know he had it. I think I'm going to say he either fought for the title or he had the title
He
and
definitely
then
had the
got beat
title, but
afterwards.
I thought he had it longer for, but maybe not. I don't know. He had the title for sure
I
though.
don't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm not too sure. I never really watched Bellator, so
As a little bit,
Yeah.
that's the thing with the, and I want there to be competition for the UFC, but like one championship. Now that DJ's on the road there, it's like pretty fun to watch. Bellator, I've never
yeah.
found fun to watch, to be honest. I just think they got to up their production quality, up like everything to fix it.
Yeah,
Commentary,
you guys,
everything.
Wow.
what do you guys got this weekend between Diaz and Kamzat? I
Dude,
want Diaz to win, but I think
everyone
Kamzat
wants
will
Diaz
win.
to win. Yeah, that's what. Yeah, exactly.
I
Exactly.
think everybody's on the same page there. He's not wrong, with everything he said.
Exactly.
I mean, that's a whole nother beast, right? That like Eastern European wrestling style. Like we could have a whole like
Yeah.
hour conversation about that.
Oh, dude, yeah. I mean, they're definitely made notable. They've been doing notable amount of wins now for quite a while. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Wait, oh, who was fighting? Because Dariush is also on the or he's also on the Oliveira Makhachev card. Who's Dariush fighting?
He's fighting Gamrot, right? That's also a really good fight.
Yeah,
oh, I think it is game. Oh, that's gonna be a good fight
Yeah, it's a
too.
sick fight too.
I think Gamrot wins that one. First, I think
Yeah, I think so
Gamrot
too.
is.
Yeah, I got Gamrot for that
I
one.
think I think Gamrot
yeah,
finishes him either
dude, it's
second or third round.
crazy.
But
Like just thinking about
Gamrot's
the
gonna be
lightweight division.
such a tough fight, man, for anybody. I look
Oh
at that guy
God,
and I'm like, fuck, dude, that's some guy I'm gonna probably have to fight one day.
he just
It's
he just
it's just
doesn't stop. He just
he's
doesn't
just
stop.
he's got like insane amount of like it's what I call like a mental endurance. You don't get tired, because if you mentally don't get tired or you don't let it affect you, you just kind of like you can keep moving forward all day,
Yeah,
and that's something that I've always had mentally. I've always been super strong
right.
when it comes to endurance and cardio. On top of training cardio a lot, uh, I always like to move forward. I don't like to give. I don't like to give like guys breathe and you know.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I love how like pressure can be weaponized in this sport, and just watching like some of your Combate global highlights, I think you do a really good job of that. And even like in the Terrence McKinney and Jim Miller fights, like it was clear that you were never giving up in those fights. Like Terrence McKinney comes out, he throws harder punches than anyone pretty much else. He just comes out blitzing in the first round, and you just like
yeah,
took it all.
yeah, no, he's definitely fast. Definitely is fast. I think Jim Miller hit harder though, like I said earlier.
Really?
Got
Honestly.
that old man strength.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but you know what? It could have been just because I had cut so much weight. So
It
it's a
sounds
lot
like
of
it a
like
little bit, yeah.
variables. A little bit of variables there.
Yeah.
I mean,
Um,
he probably does hit. Well, you saw the guy that too.
you got cut off there.
Oh, sorry. The guy that he fought after you, he knocked him out as well.
Yeah, he finished
Like,
him. Yeah.
right.
So
Yeah, dude, Jim Miller is like not.
he's been
Yeah,
on he's
he
been
has
on
the
a good
most
one, man.
wins. He has the most wins in the UFC for a reason. So, oh
Yeah.
man, this was a really fun conversation. We really appreciate you coming on, Eric.
No, thank you guys for having me, man. I appreciate the invite, man. I'm always happy to to come to any podcast interview, whatever. It's always fun time, man. It's what I do, and at the end of, I gotta let the people know my opinion and my voice too, because
Oh
people
yeah.
like to hear that about every single one of their athletes.
Well,
Right,
it's always
exactly.
fun when the
Yeah.
fighter's a fan of the sport as well, so you can talk shit about him. I'll talk shit about the fighters a bit.
No, it
It's like
is.
no,
It is.
yeah, it's like no, I want to talk about golf. It's like
No, man. It's honestly, dude, this is like the only sport besides NFL and very
Yeah.
little baseball, soccer. I mean, I've watched a little MLS a little bit, but this is honestly the only sport I truly watch, every weekend. I mean, I Discord with my buddies, just fucking watching it. That's usually how
oh
we end
yeah.
up watching it.
Yeah.
I'll be at the event this weekend.
Oh, great.
Because
Oh, awesome.
I got D-Rod, who's also on my management team that's fighting.
Dude,
Uh,
D-Rod's a
he's,
badass.
Oh yeah,
he's a
that's a
motherfucker.
close fight too. That's a really close fight. I still don't know who's gonna win
I,
that one.
yeah, you know, he fought for Combate, and you know, me and him were pretty good. We fucking clicked pretty well. And then also Melissa Martinez coming out of Combate.
Okay.
It's going to be on the preliminaries. She's a fucking
Oh,
beast
damn.
too, man. So I would, if you see when you see Melissa Martinez, man, look her up on the preliminaries. She's going to be she's a beast, man. She's a good striker.
We gotta check her out.
Yeah, we'll have to watch
One of the
out for
chicks
that
to
one.
look into, man. No doubt.
Alrighty.
But yeah, man, I appreciate you guys' time, man, and
No
Yeah.
problem.
you guys have a great day.
You too. Good
Yeah,
luck
when
with
you
the
get
new gym.
when you get another opponent. When you
Yeah,
get
I'll let you
another
guys know.
opponent booked, you gotta let us
break
know.
the news on our
right.
YouTube. All right.
All right,
Good luck
I
with
got
the
you
new gym.
guys.
Good luck with the next fight, man. Talk to you later.
I appreciate that. Do me a favor, just send me the DM with your guys' YouTube link on my Discord, and then so I can just subscribe to it right now, and because I
yeah,
like watching
sure.
YouTube. So
And then do you want to
appreciate
shout
it.
out? You want to shout out your Instagram, stuff like that, for people to follow?
Trapper UFC on everything. That's like super easiest way to do it,
Super easy.
man. Literally everything from Twitch to my social media. So I appreciate you guys, man. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, sweet.
Take it easy, guys.
Take it easy.